wouldn't you do?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I am back in the studio live for your listening entertainment. Please like, tag, and share this conversation with your friends, those around the neighborhood, those who normally are in the social media stream. Let them know that Straight Talk is on. I'm in the studio today with my main man, Matthew. His name given to him in the studio is White Soul. What's good, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good on this Sunday. How are you doing today, Mr. Kareem?
Man, it's good to be back live and in living color. It has been a few weeks, but we are back.
I got you.
Everybody knows that every now and then you have to take a break. I had a lot of things going on, so we took a couple weeks off. But we are back now. We'll be here this week, and next week we have a special guest that will be coming in for Women's History Month, Women in Technology and Industry. And so I'm excited about next week's show as well as the conversation that we're going to have today. So today we're going to have a real heart-to-heart family conversation about America's two-party system and how it's souring to many Black voters moving forward. We've seen a lot take place over these past few weeks. A lot of conversation, including Flint Mayor Sheldon Murphy being on and sharing his thoughts about how the Democratic Party is overlooking Black candidates and then turning around and expecting their vote. There's been a lot of conversation, both locally, statewide, and nationally about that. And we're going to get into that and talk about it just for a little bit today. That is going to be the thing, because I'm going to tell you, I am a proponent for voting. I'm a person who believes in the power of the ballot, the power of your voice, and your voice or your vote is your voice. So I want to make sure that we're being honest about where we are. And I want to be very honest. There's a number of people who say, oh, you can't say that, because if you say that, people won't vote. Even my dear mom is saying, hey, don't say that, because if you say that, other people might not vote. And my thought is most people that are not going to vote are not going to vote anyways. However, I do want to have, and I am aware that there's a responsibility that I have whenever you have a platform of the things that you say, but I have to be very honest about where I am. And I have to challenge parties and individuals and those who are voting, those who are asking for our vote, absolutely, to tell the truth and shame the devil. You're absolutely right, my boy, Jeffrey Bulls. I got that in right before Geraldine Walker came in. That would be my mom. But we've had this conversation, and I want to be very honest about where I am, what I think and how I feel, the issues that are at play as it relates to the Black community. And you let me know if you too feel that you're walking around with a bitter taste, a sour taste in your mouth, based upon how you believe Black communities across America are being treated, not only just by Republicans, but Democrats alike. I don't think that either of them necessarily are doing what is in the best interest of the Black community. So I want to have this conversation as I'm going to be as honest as possible. If you're interested in calling in, you can always call in at 989-921-7107. That's 921-7107. I would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions on this topic as we get into it. Well, as you know, March is Women's History Month, so we're going to do a little bit of that. I've been gone for a few weeks. It's been 3 weeks since I've been on here live. Can you believe that? You've missed me, haven't you, Matt?
I mean, yeah, you're every Sunday, and I mean, since you started your podcast with your students, you're my friend, yo. Like, I enjoy talking to you and hearing your show and participating in it, and yeah.
So I appreciate that, Matt. It's interesting. He mentioned a podcast that I'm working with some high school students. The title of the podcast is ATS. It's coming out. We have been given greenlit to run that, to actually record that podcast right here in the studio. Shout out to my main man, James Owen II, J2. He is the individual that we put together. He's put the beats down for that podcast. I can't wait till you guys are able to tune in. We're going to shoot that off on the first of the month. They'll be talking about issues that impact them and that are relevant to them from their perspectives. So that is coming. That is on the horizon. So we're excited about that. Women's March is Women's History Month. And Ida B. Wells is the person that I want to talk about a little bit today. I want to give a shout out to her and to all of the women who have made amazing and significant contributions in past, in our recent history, even in current days. There are some women that are doing some amazing things, and I'm often just inspired by what I see those beautiful vessels doing in our community, in our school place and workplaces all across America. So shout out to all of the women for Women's History Month, which is the month of March. As I said before, we're going to bring in someone who's going to highlight the role and the importance and strides that women have made in industry. On next week, I will be here. If y'all come after you're done chasing Easter bunnies or whatever it is you do on Resurrection Day, I want you to be with us. But anyways, I'm going to talk about Ida B. Wells. She was a prominent journalist, activist, and researcher in the late 19th and the early 20th century. In her lifetime, she battled sexism, racism, and violence as a skilled writer from one journalist to another. Wells Barnett, it was her last name, also used her skills as a journalist to shed light on the conditions of African Americans throughout the South. Ida B. Wells was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi on July 16, 1862. Born into slavery during Civil War. Once the war ended, Wells' parents became politically active in Reconstruction politics. Her parents instilled in her the importance of education. She enrolled at Rusk College, but was expelled because she started a dispute with the university president. And in 1868, Wells went to visit her grandmother. While she was there, Wells Barnett was informed that a yellow fever epidemic had hit the hometown. The disease took both Wells' parents and her infant brother. Left to raise her brothers and sisters, she took a job as a teacher that she could keep the family together. Eventually, she moved her siblings to Memphis, Tennessee. There, she continued her work as an educator. We're talking about Ida B. Wells, for those of you just tuning in. In 1884, she filed a suit against a train company in Memphis for unfair treatment. She had been thrown off a first-class train despite having a ticket. Although she won the case on the local level, the ruling was eventually overturned in federal court. After the lynching of one of her friends, Ida B. Wells turned her attention to white mob violence. She became skeptical about the reasons Black men were lynched and set out to investigate several cases. She published her findings in a pamphlet and wrote several columns in local newspapers. Her expose about an 1892 lynching engaged the locals, who burned her press and drove her from Memphis. After a few months, the threats became so bad she was forced to move to Chicago, Illinois. In 1893, Ida B. Wells joined other African Americans in calling for the boycott of the World's Columbian Exposition. The boycotters accused the Exposition Committee of locking out African Americans and negatively portraying the Black community. In 1895, Wells married famed American lawyer Ferdinand Barnett. Together, the couple had 4 children. Throughout her career, Ida B. Wells Barnett balanced motherhood with her activism. Wells traveled internationally, shedding light on lynching to foreign audiences abroad. She openly confronted white women in the suffrage movement who ignored lynching. Because of her stance, she was often ridiculed and ostracized by women's suffrage organizations in the United States. Nevertheless, Wells Barnett remained active with the women's rights movement. She was a founder of the NAACP Colored Women's Club, which was created to address the issues dealing with civil rights and women's suffrage. Although she was in Niagara Falls for the founding of the NAACP, her name is not mentioned as an official member. Late in her career, Ida B. Wells focused on urban reform in the growing city of Chicago. She died there in March 25th, 1931. That is your Women's History Moment. Of course, I chose Ida B. Wells, a great figure in African American history, because we live our lives 365 Black. All right, shout out, congratulations, Ty Rogers with the Fighting Illini. He is number 20 on their team. They have made it to what is called the Sweet 16 right here from the city of Saginaw, out there balling with the best of them, making it to the next round. We also want to give a great job to Jimmy Bell Jr. Those of you who watched the Big Ten, the NCAA tournament, you saw him go head to head with the Michigan State Spartans. Great job, young man, on a career well established. You've done a lot of great things. People didn't think that you would have been able to do what you have, but they counted you out. But you're looking good, young man. Great job to you. You all failed to the Michigan State Spartans, which is really, you could have stayed in the game because they didn't do much when they got in against UNC. It was as often. I'm going to say this as a Spartan. I love the green and white, but I promise you, the moment I saw that we were playing North Carolina, my heart sank because we have yet in my entire tenure of being a student since 1990, and now being an alum and a super fan of the Michigan State Spartans, I don't recall us ever having a matchup with UNC, and I may be wrong, that we've actually come out on top. When we did the basketball event, which was so huge, and President Obama was there, where they had the basketball game we played against UNC on the Carrier out in San Diego, we got our tails handed to us. When we played in the basketball event, the big basketball game that was on Ford Field with all of the attendees, we got it handed to us again. It just seems that we do not have the formula. We've beaten other great programs, but as it relates to North Carolina, they seem to have some special mojo that is a Spartan retardant. But we carry on, go green, go white, to battle another day, another season. It's interesting. There's been a lot of speculation. What will Izzo do as he looks at where he is? And we look at this new league that's going on. And, basically NBA players in the NCAA. NCAA has become the mini NBA, if you will, with all of these NIH deals and kids making money and having to worry about branding and all of the other things that are out there. But it'll be interesting to see what takes place. He's been around for a long time. Matt, what's going on?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if anybody else has seen it, but Tom Izzo, he actually made a comment after the game, and he said, "I'm getting back to a deeper run in this tournament, or I'm going to die trying." How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that comment?
Yeah.
Well, I think his tournament career ended, about a few minutes after that? Was that right after their loss?
Yep.
What do I feel about that? I don't know. I hope he doesn't die trying.
I got you.
His stress level was through the roof. It was funny as I was watching the game. Folks were saying they hope this dude doesn't stroke out because these players are sending him through it. He's dealing now. For those of you who are interested in sports, the NBA is no longer what we knew and grew up on. The way it's played is more of a Eurocentric style of play. It's run and gun. There used to be 1.5 steps, 2.5 steps was a layup. Now I think they're doing like 3.5 steps for layups, and ticky-tack fouls. That's why players like Draymond Green seems almost to be a unicorn in his league. Like he's just this, great big villain. But let's be honest, the NBA has become like Charmin tissue, soft. And so we don't have the same type. But we saw this taking place. And the thing that I hate about this is that it no longer requires for players to really be able to execute with real solid fundamentals. We're no longer seeing players that have been taught the fundamentals of the game. It's a lot of flash and slash, and it's very individualized in a game that has long been one of the greatest team sports that I've loved. And so, hey, it is what it is, but we're going to continue moving forward. We're going to do what we got to do. We're going to make it happen and make it do what it do. I am, once again, I'm going to give you this number. It's 989-921-7107. Now, I also want to just say, it's interesting because I didn't think that I would be, but I'm a little bit excited. Coming up on April the 6th is the Michigan Broadcasters Association Awards. Your boy with his show United Shades of Gray, which is actually on our sister station over at WSGW, has been nominated for best show. And when I first heard it, I laughed about it because I thought it was funny, because I'm like, we get on this show and I have a great time doing what I do both here and there. But to be recognized and for what you do and what you love and what you think empowers other individuals is a very overwhelming thing. So I think initially when they told me, I just kind of laughed. I really did laugh because I thought it was funny. As we talk about USG, United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. Some of you that are here, you may not have known that, but after this show goes off at 7 p.m., I am then on WSGW 100.5 and 97, what is it?
100.5 FM and 790 AM.
790 AM on WSGW, or you can just go to the website and listen there. And on that show, that platform, what we talk about are issues of race. And this past week's show was a really good show. We talk about the things that make us different. We talk about the issues that exist. We talk about the barriers that are there that we have to begin to have courageous conversations about. I am very, it is a very interesting platform. The dynamics of that particular station are very much different than what we see here at 107.1 FM. It is not an urban station. It is a very right-wing media station, if you were to tell me, in terms of the listenership, not the station, but the listenership. And so when I challenged and I said, hey, I don't want to just be preaching to the choir on KISS 107, even though I love my people. Y'all know I love the people in the village. I said, hey, I want to have these conversations to challenge by speaking truth to power, because I believe that we can change anything that we can begin to have a conversation about. And so when it first came on, I know that we were ruffling feathers because I was coming on, I think, right after Tucker Carlson or right after Rush Limbaugh, one of those in terms of the time when I was recording. So it's great to see that that's happening. That's April 6th. The one thing is that this is the big issue. Luck would have it, the other person, the other individual that is in that same category with me is the great Art Lewis. The man is iconic in his own way. He's been doing radio longer than I've been alive, and everyone knows who he is. And so we're both. I'm excited just for the nomination. He has wished me great luck on this. And so, hey, either way, just to be thought of in that category, in that light, is a very great opportunity. So I say thank you to you guys for continually listening to these shows as we talk about the issues that are very important, that impact the village. I told you all that if we were to do this, this is your show. So things that are important to you, that you think are important, I want you to come on out, get involved, and let's have that conversation. I think this is a great place for us to take our first commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into the conversation about America's two-party system and how Blacks are feeling a little bittersweet on what's going on. Less sweet, more bitter about what's happening in this two-party system. Stay, don't go away. We'll be back with more of Straight Talk after these messages.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
Are you ready for a lucky break, Mid-Michigan? Then today's your lucky day. I want to help you shamrock and roll out in a nicer, newer car. And you can save up to $3,777 based on the price of the car you pick. Plus, my inventory is doubling and doubling over again. It's me, Ryan Wassick from Bell Wassick GMC Buick, your only local Buick dealer and home of the lifetime warranty. If you want a nicer, newer car, van, SUV, or truck, I want to help you shamrock and roll out in a nicer, newer car. You can save up to $3,777. Listen, with our For the People promise, finding your perfect ride is so easy you'll be dancing a jig. So come on down and get lucky. Envision yourself in a 2023 Buick Envision for just $239 a month, with savings up to $3,777 based on the price of the car you pick. But hurry, this deal's done once we help 21 people get lucky in a nicer, newer ride. I'm Ryan Wassick, and I'm your dealer for the people. Make your own luck at RyanApproved.com. That's RyanApproved.com.
Credit requires bank approval. Vehicle purchase price determines actual discount. Negative equity may be refinanced. See dealer for details. Offer absolutely ends March 31st, 2024.
It's one thing falling in love with a house, picturing yourself moving in and calling it home, and quite another navigating the world of price negotiating, mortgage lenders, and finding the budget that works best for you. An agent who's a realtor can make understanding that world easier. Realtors have the expertise, access to proprietary data, and tools to help you get from imagining living somewhere to actually doing it. That's the kind of help we can provide. Because that's who we are. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Don't miss Our Kids World, Saturday, March 30th, 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Fashion Square Mall. Bounce houses, Easter Bunny photos, egg hunt, and more. This free event is powered by Garber Chevy of Saginaw, Midland, Chesaning, and Linwood. Chevy, together, let's drive.
Hey, it's Steve Harvey, y'all. Here's what happened on the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
It might be two birds in that bush, but if you let this bird go to reach in there for the two in the bush and they fly out, you ain't got nothing. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
But if it's two in there and I happen to catch both, wouldn't that be better?
Key word in there with the smallest words with the biggest consequences. If I rob this bank and if they don't catch me, I'm going to be rich. Yeah, okay. A whole lot of ifs sitting in prison today.
Kiss 107.1, simply the best R&B.
It's Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on Kiss 107.1.
Good evening and welcome back to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. And so we're going to get into our conversation, our topic for today. Once again, that number, if you're interested in giving a call, sharing your thoughts or opinion. If you want to say, hey, Kareem, shut up, we ain't feeling what you got to say. If you say it respectful, I'll let you say that too. But our number is 989-921-7107, 989-921-7107. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Black America in this current voting situation. I'm gonna start. Let's just get right into it. Ain't no easy way to say it. I'm gonna be very honest with y'all in terms of where I am and what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing on both sides of this spectrum. Okay, because there are a lot of things that are taking place that I think the average voter needs to really pay attention to and be aware of. And so there is a voter information date that's coming up. I received the flyer. I do not have it in front of me, so I apologize. That CAP, Community Alliance for the People, is putting on. And I think that we need this and what Women's of Color, I think, are also doing, Women of Colors are doing, and some other things. Please get me that information, anything that you're doing as it relates to voting, so that we can make sure that the village is well attending these events. All right. So we had your guy, Sleepy Joe, President Joe Biden. Oh, it's tomorrow at 6 p.m. I will actually be able to make that. That event for CAP is tomorrow at 6 p.m. at CAC. I'm going to ask Jeff, if you get a second, if you could call in, just kind of update. This is the day before the event. And I know that I've been out of commission. Election 411, the number's 989-921-7107. I want you to give me a call so that we can talk about what that conversation will sound like for tomorrow, for those that are tuning in, so that we can get the community out. I know that the event is at CAC at 6 p.m., but what exactly are we going to be talking about? The issues, what exactly are we talking about? Let's talk about that. So Joe Biden has come in to town, and the reason, and no one was lost on the reason he came into town is because of his failing poll numbers with Black folk, and failing poll numbers specifically to the city of Saginaw, was really to engage Black communities of color. I'll say communities of color, but in my case, it's Black folks, right? He comes into the community to engage us, to talk about how he basically to have these conversations that they could record and then create and put on news in larger spaces, the conversations that were had to endear him to people of color. And so we saw one of those already take place where he sat down with a Black father and his children. I'm not sure if there was a whole complete intact family, but there was a Black family that he sat down and he brought fried chicken because it's all Black people eat. And made a joke about somebody forgetting the watermelon, because you know how y'all people do. You eat chicken and then you sit on the porch and you eat your watermelon. Those are my words, not his, but it was just the optics and just putting it all together that was almost horrific for me. And it gave me some serious pause on who's in control of this campaign, and they need to stop letting the bureaucrats in D.C. or in Washington or the White House or whoever's been in charge do what they've been doing, because it is a sinking ship. The Titanic has reemerged and now has come forth with Mr. Biden and his 2024 presidential campaign on it. And so there are some things going on. We do have a caller. I believe Mr. Bulls has called in. Before I just jump right into everything that I want to talk about, let's talk about what's happening tomorrow so that our village can be equipped with information that's necessary for this coming election. Hey, Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Man, I am doing great. Any day 6 feet above ground is a good day. But I wanted you're coming in, and I know that I haven't had a chance to even talk to you, but I know that your sentiments are probably very similar as it relates to the current situation of politics for Black America. Tomorrow, there's an event that's going on at 6 p.m. at CEAC. What exactly is happening?
So we're having a voter education and public forum. It's called Election 411, and our aim is to get the community out on all levels. Even if you're a new voter, it's not just for experienced voters, it's for everybody. So even if you're a new voter, if you just registered this year, or you don't know much about the process, if you want to learn about the process, we have multiple people who are going to give presentations to help you get you up to speed. And so that's the aim, is to get people aware of how to vote, how to register if they haven't already, just give them information so that you can be a better informed voter.
Okay, so this is really the basics 101, voting 101.
Yes.
Okay, so are you tomorrow? Who's running this? Who are the persons that will be responsible for the training? And that's kind of what it is: training on how to get registered, training on where to vote, polls, all of that stuff. Who's responsible for this training?
So we have our Saginaw County. We have Vanessa Guerra that's coming in, who's our treasurer for Saginaw County, or our clerk. I'm sorry. She's going to give the first presentation, and as you know, the Saginaw County clerk runs Saginaw County elections. So she's responsible for every polling location, the ballots, everything. So she's going to give the basic rundown of how to register, how to find out where you vote, all that good stuff. And then we'll have Miss Kanika Pugh, who's the vice president of the Saginaw County branch of the NAACP. She'll be there to kind of help that conversation as well, and fill us in on what the NAACP is doing as far as getting people out to vote and some other stuff. And then we'll have we have two more entities. I'm drawing a blank. We'll have the Black pastors come in. They'll be doing a presentation, and we also have the League of Women Voters. They'll be coming in as well, and giving a presentation on what they're doing to get out the vote. So a lot of great information that's going to be shared, and then from there we can get into some specific things about voting, whether it's on the local level, the county level, because there's this ballot is going to be really, really loaded and important. And so there's a lot of information that's going to be on this ballot, probably going to be a 2-pager. So it's a lot of stuff to cover on the ballot.
Jeff, I want to ask this question. I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I do want to ask this question. One of the issues that has continually come up in the village is that when they were choosing these precincts, places where you can vote and other different things, that it seemed like, how do Black churches and organizations or places with spaces get involved with having their location chosen as a precinct? Is that a part of the conversation? Because I know there is, I guess, from my understanding, a financial benefit to some degree when they choose a particular church or entity as a polling precinct for the various areas in our community. Is that something that will also be addressed during the process on tomorrow?
It will be now, just because you said it. And that's the reason we wanted Vanessa to be in the House, because, like I said, she runs the elections in Saginaw County. And so that's a question that she can answer directly. It's under her purview. So I think she'll have the greatest perspective to give and answer that question.
Now, Jeff, I want to ask you one other question, and this is more Jeff, the political activist that has emerged. When we look at where things have fallen for Saginaw County, as it relates to, in our mind, we are a blue collar city, right? Saginaw County is a blue collar place. From the nuts and bolts of GM, we get it out the mud, that kind of thing. But when we look at the direction that our county has been leaning over the past couple of decades, we've been actually trending toward more of a pink towards red than we have toward the darker shade of blue. What would you say has been a key factor in what we would consider a transitioning of sorts, but which has really been the playing field for us here in Saginaw County? Why do you think that exists?
Well, I'll say that I don't think it's a matter of changing priorities. I think that what you're seeing is, on the red side, their base is being attended to. Their candidates are listening to them, and they're getting their vote out. And quite the opposite on the other side. You alluded to it in your opening. Black people who are the base of the Democratic Party, let's be clear, they haven't been heard. They haven't been listened to, and you're starting to see that in the numbers. I think I know that's something that you're going to cover, but that's the sentiment that's out there.
Wow.
Black
Okay.
people are not being heard,
and I think that as you just said, that the numbers are showing that. Before, when we were looking in 2020, they were saying, upwards of 17%. That was a very high number. I think the actual come in was like 8 or 9%. Is where most Republican individuals have been able to garner support from Black communities. The last election, they were thinking that it was somewhere around 17 for Black males. They're looking at this coming election cycle, nearly a third, at 27% of Black individuals saying that they are going to vote for a Republican candidate. What would you say? Is it just the fact that there is not a listening voice? Is it the issues? Is it the disrespect? Is it like, hey, we're going to choose the other since this party is not paying attention? What would you account for those numbers? And I think there's a lot of people that are listening and often tune into this conversation. So I think it's important for us to address it. As a Black man who has voted, who is a voter, who's politically inclined and continually challenge other people to get to the polls, what do you think that draw is, that growing draw of the Republican Party, in particular Donald Trump, that is causing Black men to look to him as a possibility for a presidential candidate once again?
Well, I think that, there are some Black men who look at Trump as a transactional candidate. He's somebody that they feel like they can at least go in and sit down and talk to. And, people take that for granted. And especially Democrats, that they've taken it for granted that, you can disregard a certain subsection of your voters and think they're still going to vote for you. That's foolery. And so I think, the Republican Party is taking advantage of that now. Will they get huge numbers? Probably not. But they're going to get some numbers that's going to really shift the conversation. And so be it. Because, how long will you take disrespect and not do something else?
All right, Jeff, I want to thank you once again. Give us that time and location tomorrow for election 401 voter information and empowerment. When is that taking place again?
It'll be tomorrow, 6 p.m. at the Community Action Center. It's on Perkins Street, right here in the heart of Saginaw, Michigan.
And that's for everyone who will be 18 or coming up or just need the information. So high school students are also encouraged to come because they will be a part of the voting population moving forward, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Bring out the whole family.
All right. Thank you so very much, Jeff. We thank you for your the work that you're doing in the community. Stay strong and stay up. All right. So we're going to continue in the vein of where we were before. And I was talking about the visit from President Joe Biden. Now, I'll tell you this. I consider myself, and I say this all of the time, and I don't know if people just think that I'm just talking and I just want to be different, but I consider myself to be a conservative. in much of what I do. There are some things that I'm very conservative on. There's some other things that I'm very liberal on. So I'm probably a center of the road conservative individual. I think it conservative as it relates to spending, conservative as it relates to government and interference with much of Americans' business. And I'm very liberal as it comes to a fact that I think that every nation has a responsibility to take care of its citizens. And so I am an individual who believes in gun rights. And I've grown up in a community where gun rights has or the usage of firearms. And when I talk about firearms, I'm not necessarily talking about handguns. Growing up as a kid, we used to shoot targets. I grew up in Carlton, which is right across the bridge from the city of Saginaw, but it was like night and day. We had woods that we would shoot at targets and shoot at cans and, go squirrel hunting and things of that nature. And we enjoyed what it was like to have guns and learn to use them responsibly. And we're taught how to do those things. But I also believe that there is a need as a leader of a community gun violence intervention program. Both can be true. I think that there is a real need for suspension of certain types of guns, firearms, weapons of war, I'll say, that should not be permitted or permissible to be owned by individuals of the community. So it's that's a very left side thing. I think that common sense gun laws are a very center of the road. People who have common sense should understand the importance of that. And so I say that because when I look at this, I don't consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. I grew up in a very Democratic household. General Motors and blue collar work put me through school. I thank my parents, my mom and my stepdad. My mom and my dad. I'm not going to say stepdad because he was the only dad I know. Shout out Odell Walker. My mom and dad raised me on General Motors. My grandfather was a General Motors guy until he became a pastor. So GM has been, as many folks in this community, a reason and an avenue by which I was able to afford an education. And so, some people would think that when you do better, you change your politics. No. Where you grew and how you came up and how you became the individual that you are today. And then the things that are in place should be the way in which you define yourself politically. It's not just about what happens with you, but it's about identity politics. What happens to our village? What happens to the entire community? And so many times we often just look at my for and no more when we make decisions and how we choose to do certain things. If it benefits me, that now that I have been raised in a blue collar environment, I have had the benefits of what blue collar living and the relationships that you have and gone through those situations. Now I'm at an upper echelon in terms of my financial standing. So I should now change my politics. And now I have to be something other because now I'm in a different economic bracket. If that's how you live your life, shame on you. Because we live in this world and we are interconnected. We are all woven together like a beautiful tapestry. And what happens to someone else in the village should be something that is concerned to me. So oftentimes the way that I feel politically and the things that are important to me and the way that I vote is not about me specifically, but it is what is for the betterment of my community. I love the fact that we are finally getting to a place, and shout out to Twani Gray at Q's. I want to say Ruby Q's. I know it ain't Ruby Q's, Ruby D's, DQ's, whatever it is. Your new shop over there. Somebody give me the name, put it in the stream. Did its soft opening on Saturday. I was so pleased to see the line out the building, down the street, because GQ's, that's what it is. GQ's. We've had some conversation. It's been years now of some things that you plan to do and desire to do in addition to GQ's. Thank you so very much. Barbecue, soul food, all of that good stuff. We're looking for places to go, and it's about time that we can take our dollars after getting out of church on Sunday. I'm not sure if you're open on Sunday, but on Saturday evenings after coming from games and events, we can find a place that we can actually go to where we can turn $1 in our own community. Everybody, the Asian, market with the Chinese food and Panda Express and all of, Mexican food. I appreciate it, but there needs to also be in the Black community a place where we can turn our dollars over a couple of different times. All right. And so I think that, so shout out to you, Twani Gray, and your wonderful wife on the soft opening of GQ's. The reviews that I've heard by word of mouth have been nothing short of amazing. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Bulls. He shared with us that Baldwin's is reopening next month. And I'm going to say something to y'all, man, because we need these spaces in our community. We get treated differently in these spaces. Your dollar means something different to them than it does to a community once you cross over bridges and go down certain state highways, state roadways. And so it's important for us to make sure that we patronize our community. I don't like what they have. It don't matter. You may not like everything, but give people a chance to work out kinks, give them an opportunity. And I'm going to say this to y'all before y'all start slamming us. We are the only army that shoots our own soldiers in the feet. And so I want y'all to operate in some grace with these. What you say at home amongst your family is one thing. But when I grew up, we would always say that you don't air your family laundry in public. And what I mean by that is this, okay, as a new business that is opening, GQ's, and as a new business that's emerging from a fire, Baldwin's, it's important. One thing that I'm not, even TSO, and I may not like any of them, okay, but what you will never have me do is to get on social media and to bash another Black business, because it is already difficult as a Black business to get the funding and the financing in place. And so there's a small percentage of individuals that start out with that dream and that plan, whether it's that or a daycare, whatever the situation is, that actually has the wherewithal to be able to open and to get a space that they can call their own, to do business. The last thing that I hate, if you don't like something, call the restaurant, let them know what it is that you don't like. Don't go in making scenes, because we're good for this. We'll talk about what we don't have in the community, and then we'll get on social media and like, their food is nasty, I had to hear, and we destroy our own Black-owned businesses. Shame on you, Saginaw. So we have to handle these things differently. Some things handle within the family. Make sure you address those things with owners. Give the owners an opportunity to make some corrections so that they can live, to cook, and to serve another day. So back to the elections. I had to get that off my chest, because GQs, we want you to be successful. And Twani, you have been out here supporting folks, talking today. I don't want to say bad kids, but kids with challenges. We'll say that on today. You've been working with their children with challenges, giving of yourself, your time, lending to their health and their emotional support. And I think that we as a community need to make sure that we provide that same covering and that same emotional support for you and the endeavors that you have. To whom much is given, much is required. All right. So let's make sure that Saginaw, we support our Black-owned businesses. We do what we can to make sure that they are in good health. Let's normalize going to owners of establishment and addressing our issues and concern in a dignified manner, undercover, so that we can give these opportunities for change and betterment, so that they can stick around for a while. It's important that our dollars start turning over in our own communities. All right. So I talked about the fact that President Joe Biden came to town. This is no secret. Well, I guess it was supposed to be a secret, but the reality of the situation, I don't consider myself important to the community. I consider myself relevant, meaning that I'm going to address and talk about issues that are important to folks who are every day in our community. So my phone was ringing from a few different sources. There were several different sources that contacted me, said, hey, Mr. Bowen, hey, Kareem, hey, Straight Talk, whatever it is. Our president is coming to town. These things are never hush hush. We would like to put your name down as someone that, could participate. They were asking for different individuals. They asked for journalists and different people. Your name was on the top of our list. And I'll be very honest, my response and those individuals who called me, those three different entities who called me, and I'm going to get to this question. We have a question by Lisa Coney. who is out there. She's asking a question. I'm going to ask that you take a look at that to my producer. I'm going to finish what I'm saying, and I'm going to get back to that. So I was at a point where they said, hey, listen, I'm going to, put your name down. We want you to be involved. Hey, maybe not. And I was like, listen, let me be very honest. I voted for Joe Biden in 2020. And I voted for Joe Biden not because I was inspired by him. I voted for him as the lesser of two evils. And then before that, I was voting for Hillary Clinton, who I've never been a super fan of because she was the lesser of two evils. And what I saw once this happened, and I've been telling y'all this since 2018. So before the election, I told you that the issues that were important to us, if we didn't get in and make them happen, that something else more important was going to happen. And so I've been disappointed by the execution of very basic things that are important to the Black community, and how the administration, and I say the administration because it's not just Joe Biden, but it's also our elected officials in Congress and everywhere else, how they played down the importance of the things that matter to us, aka voting rights. Black folks are the only ones who have risked everything, including their life, that have to continually be renewed and have a renewing of our right to vote. Even those who come in from other countries, and I'm not being xenophobic, but they come in, and once they have the right to vote, it is etched in stone, their right to vote. But we continually have to have our citizenship, our Americanization reaffirmed by passing and reaffirming these different amendments and things that are taking place. And I think that it is horrific. Amen. So I'm going to put a pin in it. There's a question that's coming out there. I'm curious to know the facts of what the Republicans have done besides listening to the concerns of BIPOC population, that's Black folks. What's their plan for improvement for all Americans? And I hear you, Lisa. We're going to get there. I appreciate you. From what I've read, if the Republicans win, our population will lose health care for the overturned. Social Security will be overturned. Women will have no rights to make decisions about their bodies. If you listen to Trump lately, he's talking about a bloodbath if he doesn't win. All right. So, and Lisa, I'm going to say this, and I appreciate you, and I have a great deal of respect for you. And this, what you're doing is what has been happening to Blacks as it relates to our vote. We get to a position to where we're overlooked as viable candidates for positioning. The Democratic Party has a different view of what is enforceable. And the Republican Party, as we speak to them, the Republican Party is just sitting back looking like, look, if we're going to take whatever they lose and we'll promise whatever we can. It's no different. That's why I said this entire two-party system, it stinks for Black America. But this is the reason I'm addressing the Democratic Party is because if we were playing tennis, the ball would be in their court. And the next swing needs to be in the realm of the court that we're playing. They've been hitting outside of the court. They've been faulting and fouling their hits when they are in the controlling seat. So as it relates, unfortunately, the Black vote, the BIPOC vote, as you put it, is theirs to lose. And so I would say that they need to have a real reckoning. I agree. I'm not voting. I didn't say that I was not voting for Joe Biden to vote for Donald Trump. That'll never happen because racists never get, and this is my opinion, racists never will get my vote. I'm not going to vote for people who are outwardly racist. Now, we understand that the entire system has a tinge, if you will, of white supremacy as it is the system in which we operate. So I'm not going to vote for something that's going to put us back. Do I think that Republicans have a plan for Black America? Absolutely not. Because Republicans want us to not be Black Americans. They want us to be Americans. And they want us to continually just kind of become a part of this melting pot to where any semblance of our Blackness is no longer in existence. So I am very clear. And that's why I said I wanted to make sure that I was very transparent with how I was saying what I was saying. And so I appreciate you, Lisa, for bringing those. What plans do the Republican Party have for Black folks? It's like Scooby-Doo. None. I mean, but that is the essence of what we're talking about here today. The the Republican Party is no longer, since Goldwater, and has no longer been the party of our ancestors. The Democratic Party had great wishful and thoughts and were great as it related to our civil rights, the civil rights movement, and the changing and the direction of Black folks. But now our votes are being overlooked. There are other parties and other platforms. We have been doing more as it relates to me and my particular belief in making sure that Israel and is feeling safe and ignoring what the broad band of Americans really want in our nation. So therefore, we have uprisings like we saw in this last primary. Not just Michigan, but in other places where there are Muslims and Muslim Americans and Palestinians that are not in agreement with what they see take place. My question to the village is simply this: when are you going to allow yourself to stop being taken advantage of? When are you going to stop allowing everybody else to stand up and make a stand when we are the ones who are the base, as Mr. Bull said it, of this entire party? If blacks don't vote Democratic, Democrats won't win. So when are we going to stop allowing our votes to be overlooked? Mr. Biden came into town to make his reputation better, to create opportunities to have these wonderful, amazing conversations with Black folks. And what he did is he came in here and he ate a hot good sundae in the middle of June when it was 95 degrees and made a big mess. If you can't get the messaging right and your people and your staffers don't know what to say to Black communities and how to operate in Black spaces, then stay in Washington, D.C. and send your surrogates who understand Black politics. That's what I'm saying. You don't come to a community, and in that community, no shade to nobody. You come to a community, you go into the inner city of that community, and you find the one of maybe 10 white people who live in that community to sit down and have, an interest in a conversation with. You don't come into a community where you want to, when it comes to the last couple months, you want to come in and speak to the Black churches and go in and address their congregations. But when you come to a city, you don't sit down and have conversation with Black pastors. This is just common sense. And as I am saying, if you can't see me, then don't see me on election day, because I'll vote for every local election that I have. I'll vote for my state officials. I'll vote for my congressmen and women that represent me in Washington, D.C., because let's be clear, the last time number 45, who wants to be number 47, was in, there was a split Congress. Not much was able to be done. So our national politics, to me, unless somebody tells me something different, doesn't impact me as much as these local elections. And I'll tell you, I am at a place that I'm so fed up with what they're feeding us, with the poison that they're putting in our Kool-Aid, and challenging us to continue to drink and saying it's going to get better, that I'm willing to vote for myself for president. Matt, you want to run for president? I'll vote for you for president.
Yeah, I'll run for president.
Okay. I mean, so what I'm saying is that we have to have these conversations. And I'm not trying to run anybody away from the Democratic Party, but I do want the Democratic Party to know that you are vulnerable. And the ball is in your court. If we playing ball, determine and really pay attention to who are the next people you pick up in this game of pickup as you vie for the votes of Black folk. Jeffrey Bulls, I just hope Black folks understand that they don't have to be gaslit by Trump boogeyman syndrome. Absolutely. Respecting Black voters is independent of Trump. It's simply respect. That's what I'm saying, my man. Lisa Coney, I understand and I agree. I would love to see more BIPOC citizens at the local municipal meetings. Very good point right there. We've got to get involved much sooner than we do when it's time for us to get voted. We got to be involved in those meetings, everyday meetings. So one of the things that we're going to do, I think on our next show, I will put a schedule out and we'll publish a schedule of all of the meetings, those local municipal meetings that need to take place. They're happening all over the place. Let's stop being reactionary and get involved with the process. Lisa Coney, I accept that challenge, and I think that you are very appropriate. Reach out to your local leaders and ask them how they are voting on certain issues. So very important for everybody that is out there. Let's make sure that we do the work that we have to do in order to make sure that this happens. Now, I do have something interesting that I would like to share in the last 3 or 4 minutes that I have that is going on. So we're looking at this. I've stated how I feel. I sat last year, the last election cycle, I sat on a national platform of Black faith leaders, and I connected the Biden administration with, I think, people who are movers and shakers that they didn't have numbers to. I don't understand how you could even be in this situation at this age and in this day, right? And so they called me back, and I told them the same thing. I'm not feeling the way that I did before. I'm not anti-Joe. I just need Joe to wake up and Sleepy Joe to wake up and to wipe the cobwebs out of his eyes and out of his ears, and put people around him who understand the rich, the diversity, the color that exists in the Black community. All right. That's what I'm saying. But anyways, so as we look at this, we've got to begin. And I say this all the time, and this is to your point, Ms. Coney, Commissioner Coney. We have to make sure that we are actively involved as it relates to the fight. See, we thought the civil rights was all the fighting that we had to do. We sang "We Shall Overcome." We crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge. There were some policies and some things that were changing that benefited Black folks. We now see those same policies being gutted out and being used against us as we look at how things are moving forward, right? So we got to get back into the fight for our community. Voting rights is a very important thing. We've got to make sure that we have voting rights once and for all, and we don't have to continually sign additions or extensions to those rights. There is a real issue that exists in Black America that no one seems to be addressing. And that is the wealth gap. There is a widening wealth gap that is increasing and increasing. We have to be able to talk about how do we bridge the divide. That wealth gap, which also included in that is the pay gap. If you're doing equal work, you should have equal pay, and we're being paid cents on the dollars for the work that we're putting into the communities. But if we just sit back and we're trying to figure out when we had money when Donald Trump was in office and Joe Biden didn't give us nothing, you got unemployment money. You got money that many of us scams, many folks, and I'm not talking about just us, many folks scammed to get. You had money that now has led to the inflation that you're getting ready to blame on Joe Biden. You cannot give away free dollars. I was saying this when they were giving out this money. You cannot give away free dollars and just print money and give it away. And it's not based upon anything without there being an extreme reflux or an adjustment to that financial system, which is called inflation. So now the inflation that we're suffering, you want to pin on Joe Biden, but he wasn't the man that was writing the checks to start this entire process. So we've got to be wise on how we vote, but make sure that your vote is given to someone who sees you, who hears you, who takes time to listen to you and understands your political situation, your economic situation, your financial situation, your healthcare situation, your housing situation, because what's now happening is affordable housing is the buzz. Affordable housing for Black America is very different than affordable housing for white America. Why? Because affordable housing means I may not be able to find the right apartment or condo to one community, where in other communities, it means I may be homeless. And so you have to begin to understand what these things mean. We talk about foreign policy. They say Blacks don't get involved in foreign policy conversations. But what happens abroad in Ukraine and what happens in Gaza and what happens in Mexico and what happens in these other places in the world, which are foreign policy, directly impact our bottom line as folks in this community. I can't sit here and argue all day, but next week we'll be back. We'll talk about celebrating Black women for Women's History Month. We're going to continue this conversation, and the closer we get, the more we'll talk about all of the issues that exist as it relates in the community that we need to be aware of. I'm going to call them to the carpet. I'm going to speak truth to power, because it ain't just about me. It's about the village. I pray that you guys continually take care of yourselves and each other, one another. Love you. One love. Go see that movie, Bob Marley. It's awesome. Grace and peace.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem